This is a trigger warning. So if you are made of silly putty, please leave this video. And by that, I mean if you don't have thick skin, go ahead and hop off this video. Because today we're going to be discussing how much of a disservice that you are doing to your future self financially by being completely irresponsible. Not only to yourself, but to your future spouse and your future kids and their future kids. Because it is not your fault if you didn't come from a rich family, but it is your fault if a rich family doesn't come from you. My name is Des Pena, aka the Trillionaire Woman. I manage a $70 million estate, and I help business owners making six figures or more actually create and maintain generational wealth through leveraging policies, systems, and processes that only the billionaires use. So if that's something that you want to learn about, you can go ahead and search through my other content or click the links down in the description below. But back to the topic at hand. You are responsible for the current life you are living, and you are responsible for the future life you are living. Now, this concept may go above your head, but if you're someone who's spiritually grounded or works on personal development, this may make a little bit more sense to you. And if that's not something you have already explored, please go to someone else's video and learn about personal development and actually grow your mindset. Because if you are in a fixed mindset, nothing that I say is going to actually help you. It will simply just hurt your ego. When you actually start developing and working on yourself, you lose that ego. So that is what allows the wealthy to continue to grow successfully and actually maintain relationships. When you are consistently working hours on end, not utilizing your time the way you wish to, not spending your time with the people that you want to spend it with, because you simply can't financially, that is a problem. And that is a problem that you need to address immediately. That is like sitting on an operating table, bleeding out, but you refuse to call the doctor in and let them know that you're bleeding. When we're talking about actually creating something of substance, so let's say we're trying to get our first six figures. You can do this multiple ways. One, you can get a six-figure job, build up your skill set. You want to know a life hack? Obviously, only do this if you can handle the amount of pressure and you're a quick learner. You can always open up an LLC. Position yourself in the position that you want to get the job for and recommend yourself to, or have a family member recommend you as an owner of that business to the company that you are applying for. So it shows that you actually have experience, because no one wants to hire someone with no experience. Obviously, make sure you are equipped with the skill sets in order to obtain this job. You can also just start your own business. The path from 0 to 1K is simply by finding one skill set that you can utilize and ideally put that into a service-based business, because a service-based business, you'll get to charge more typically than a product-based business. So find whatever skill set that is, invest into learning whatever skill set that is for you to reach your first 100K. Now, the road from 100K to 1 million is simply by optimizing systems and by tracking your KPIs. KPIs are key performance indicators. That means, what are you doing every single day to literally make $1, to make more money? Whether that be DMing, whether that be running ads, whether that be doing sales calls, whatever it is you need to do, you have to track meticulously. And that includes every dollar that you spend, because every dollar that you spend should be making you more money. And if it's not making you more money, you literally just flush the dollars down the toilet. And that's what you're doing every single day. If you're not someone who is investing your money, whether that be into a new business, whether that be into real estate, whether that be into your own personal development or knowledge. And I'm not saying to come out here and be the most personal development guru person. There are people who are called, I forget the term, but essentially it's like conference hopping, where you just consistently go for external validation to all these different conferences to either try and network or try and grow yourself when you've already been to 20 already. If you've already been to 3 or 4 conferences, let's say one conference a quarter, All right, like that's not too much. That's reasonable. You've been to one conference a quarter, but you have yet to close any sort of business with anyone that you went to those conferences to, at least within about maybe 4 months to a 6 months time period, or 6 months to a year's time period. You completely wasted your time and your money going there, being there, and spending your time there. That's what you just did. So if you need to simply just lock in and do the same repeatable process that you know already makes you money, that is how you will continue to grow. Sometimes what people do from 100K to a million is create a complementary business. It's not dispersed focus. It's simply complementary, as in something that you're already doing. For example, if I'm already doing credit repair, I'm going to add funding. They're complementary because the people that do this fall into this as of step 2. So they go from step 1 to step 2. And that's how I was able to build my business. They went from a series from step 1 to step 2 to step 3. My secondary business that I did in conjunction with the credit and funding business was actually a business systems and marketing automation company. That business system was created in order to help people create their business structure for the credit and funding company, because after getting their credit done, they wanted money, but in order for them to get money, they needed to have a business that they were actually going to utilize the money for, or else they're just going to get themselves into a shit ton of debt. So therefore, we needed to help them structure their business properly, help them come up with a plan, get their website up, do the emails, get the phone numbers, build the CRM, everything. You literally build an entire system and structure to say, okay, when you have the money, you funnel it into, for example, ads for your service, and then you start making sales so you can actually get a return on your money. Now, what's really good about business credit is that most of the time you're getting a 0% interest rate for the first 12 to 15 to 18 months even. And on top of that, you're getting a plethora of points. So after you grinded your butt off for a whole year, you can finally take a vacation that is practically free because you're just utilizing points on money that you would have spent anyway, that you already did spend. So one mistake that actually people make when they're starting their first business and trying to get to that 100K is they get so stressed out and burnt out because the learning curve is just so much for someone who's very novice that they feel like they need a release, a stress release. So they end up taking breaks more often, or they end up taking vacations when they're only 4 months into their business or business acquisition. And that is the worst thing that you can possibly do for yourself. I started my first company, and my first company I made 6 figures within 6 months. And then literally I would say almost 11 months later was when I decided to take my first vacation. And that month that I took a vacation, my business made less than $2,000. Do you know how stressful it is to be on vacation knowing that your business that month just made $2,000? And you know what was even worse is that I didn't even know that that's what was happening because I didn't learn about KPIs and key performance indicators until probably a month after that or 2 months after that. And then I looked back at the numbers and I was like, ooh, actually, this is really bad and we need to fix it. And that goes to you. You are the primary person guiding and steering the boat for your business. So if you're guiding and steering the boat for your business, you cannot have 1, dispersed focus. 2, you have to be the hardest worker because you're setting an example for everybody else that works with you. And then 3, you simply have to have an insatiable drive. There is no such thing as, I'm not motivated today. Because if you're not motivated, somebody who is more motivated than you are literally going to take your clients. You know how competitive, like when I was starting out, the credit repair space was? It was significant. And most companies, they fail after year 3. Like after 2 years or 3 years, you're done. There is no more company. So then people who started just didn't have enough tenacity or the capital in order to be able to move forward. Luckily, I just so happened to get into an industry where it's all about finance and money. Like nobody's ever not gonna want money. So you get into an industry that is evergreen. So you have to make sure that you're picking the right industry that is optimized for growth. And you can look this up on Google. Whether it's you're someone who's searching for products that are trending, you can use Google Trends for that. You can also use Google Trends to search up what industries are popping off and what projections. You can use AI and ask it projections for what is the most likely industry to grow. As of right now, you know that AI is extremely popular and it's in its infancy stages, and it is only going to continue to grow. You know that content creation is also something that's fairly new-ish that is still continuing to grow. The creator economy is continuing to grow. Airbnbs are beating out hotels. That's continuing to grow. So positioning yourself in a way that it is an evergreen industry is how you are going to most definitely get yourself between that 1 million plus range, that 1 to 10 million range. Between that 1 to 10 million range, you're simply just scaling all the systems that you have already built. And if you didn't build your systems already and your SOPs, which is your standard operating procedures, if you're not tracking your KPIs, you have no indicators to go off of in order to scale and grow your business. So when you actually analyze all of this, and it's a lot of data, and when you're analyzing all of this data for however many companies you're managing, between 1 million and 10 million, now what you're doing is simply just analyzing everything on a larger scale and tripling wherever you are throwing money that's giving a return. So you continue to grow that return, and ideally, if you're intelligent, you are obviously putting more money into investments, whether that be lending your capital out, whether that be putting it into a already predictable system that may be returning you anywhere from 5 to 15% a month. And I know that may sound completely crazy to you because you're used to only getting 10% a year from the stock market, or maybe you're investing in private equity and or venture capital, and you are maybe having a hit or miss of you could potentially get 20 to 30% within a year. There are other avenues out there, especially when you're in the finance space. You simply just need to have access to it and get with the right people that have access to those things. Once you're scaling past 10 million and you're going into the 1 billion mark, usually what people are doing are simply just acquisitions. So they're acquiring more and more businesses that are complementary. They're literally just playing an equity game. Why? Because when you play the equity game, you can actually leverage against the equity that you have within that company. And that company could potentially be a Fortune 500 company or a company that's about to go public. So you're identifying the trends early and investing into those companies that are riding those trends that are literally cemented for future growth because of the industry that they're in, because of the innovation that they're providing, and because of the ease and access that it is providing for people in order to get a result. Now, that result can simply be either solving a pain point, that result can be helping people multiply their money, that result can be, of course, within SEC standards, that result can simply be a really good cause that is close to your heart. Because when you are aligned with your purpose and you are investing in things that either one, you have knowledge on, or two, are backing people who are knowledgeable in the industry that you're investing in, and it's a good team built behind it, there is literally no way that you can possibly fail, especially if they have someone on their team, like myself, for example, who is looking out for everyone's best interest, making sure that insurance policies are in place, making sure that the structure is proper. Because if you're paying 30-40% to the IRS of your gross revenue every single year, that is a big chunk that is taken out of the pockets of 1, the investors, 2, the operators, and 3, the shareholders. So when you are properly structuring your business, when you are properly putting the policies in place that are meant to help not only protect the business from failing, but also getting a sufficient amount of capital, ideally through the acquisition of A, assets, or B, utilizing the bank's money, investors are always protected. So you will constantly be able to increase the amount of investment that you're getting from others because you have a fail-safe way that their money will not be lost. And simply All people want when they're giving you money is for them to get a return on their money. They want their money back plus a little extra. That goes for the banks as well. They want their money back plus their interest. Now, when you learn to play this game, there is no cap. It is continuously growing. And you, therefore, as a result, will need to grow into that position of being able to manage that level of responsibility. 1, 2, also being able to zoom out and zoom in. So being able to have multiple different perspectives around the industry or even the entire ecosystem of your business. Whenever I am developing a business, I am visualizing the entire ecosystem of how, I'll just break it down for you. For example, Royalpreneurs is a company that is a wealth management consulting firm. How do we do this? We originally started off with fixing people's credit. Then they wanted to get funding. Sorry, honey, you can't get funding if your business isn't properly structured. So we did business structuring. On top of doing credit, business structure, funding, now this person has a business, but maybe they don't know systems or operations. So then we had our second company created where we actually help them with the business systems and operations as well as content creation. Because how else are people supposed to know that your business even exists? So then that's why we created that. That's the ecosystem. I hope you're catching my drift here. Then after that process is completed and they're actually bringing in revenue, what can we do now? We can now structure the business that is already bringing a large amount of money in and structure it into the proper structure. For example, utilizing a private trust in order to save money on taxes, protect their assets, maintain anonymity, completely demolish capital gains tax. They can even sell their business without, if they grew enough and they're like, hey, I just want to exit. Now they have no capital gains tax because they were in a private trust instead of a corporation or an LLC. We also offer virtual CFO services. So now you have someone who is extremely knowledgeable in finance. And remember, everything is a system. So as long as you are a business, for example, making 3 to 5 million or more, then you can have this virtual CFO service go into your business, clean up the bookkeeping, making sure that you have a bookkeeper there because the bookkeeping is what gives you access to capital. Having the proper tax preparations are what gives you access to capital. Making strategic acquisitions and increasing your valuation is what gives you access to more capital in order to be able to grow. So when you have someone positioned in that position who actually knows how to leverage safely, because not only that, we also offer whole life insurance. We offer insurance for businesses in order to protect everyone's investment. So when you develop this ecosystem-based thinking, in what world are you going to fail? The people who succeed have the best plan, and they follow that plan to a T, and they are able to duplicate themselves through their employees and or through their systems. When we process credit, you get on the phone with the salesperson and you're run through this process like an automated train making these different stops because every single thing is documented. And if it is not documented or up to date, you will simply fail as a result, not on purpose, but because you no longer put the amount of care into what it is you were doing when you first started. So that's one thing to always maintain is your level of efficiency, attention to detail, being able to zoom in and zoom out on your business or all of your businesses, and then continuing to optimize in every single way possible. I hope you guys got some value from that. If you did, go ahead and comment below what the most valuable thing you heard today was, and I'll see you next time.